I'm very pleased to preside at Madeleine Albright's swearing in today. I thank the Senate for its swift and unanimous approval of her nomination. That reflects the confidence that all of us have in this remarkable American. America must continue to be the world's greatest force for peace and freedom and prosperity. Madeleine Albright has the strength and wisdom to help ensure that America remains the indispensable nation.
As the NATO summit is underway right now, that was former President Bill Clinton presiding over an historic moment back in 1997, the swearing in of Madeleine Albright as U.S. Secretary of State, the first woman to hold that position. And the 42nd President of the United States joins us now to help us remember her. Joe?
Mr. President, thank you so much for taking your valuable time to talk about Madeleine Albright. When she was sworn in, you said of her that her story is the best of America's story. And you said from the moment you met her, you liked her and you knew she was the right person to be your Secretary of State. Talk about what you're thinking about Madeleine Albright right now.
Well, first of all, she became a very close friend of Hillary's and mine, so I'm missing her. But I had the great good fortune to be her friend for more than 30 years and to eventually appoint her UN ambassador and Secretary of State. She was great at both, and she did represent the best of America because her family was basically run out of Czechoslovakia twice, first by Hitler and then by Stalin, and they came to America as refugees. They found a home. Her father found work at the University of Denver as a professor, and she finished her education and went on to a great career, first as a professor at Georgetown and later in the government. And she always believed that the first priority was to maintain your freedom and then democracy. And she was perfect for coming in at the end of the Cold War because she knew there was a chance that just because Hitler and Nazism had been defeated, the impulse to dictatorship was still strong. There were a lot of people who believed that the best government was being able to control your neighbors and run people's lives and tell them what to do, and she didn't believe that. And she decided that she wanted to give her life to trying to give people, like the people she came from, a chance to breathe free air where they lived so they wouldn't have to come to another country to do it.
Mr. President, you made history as choosing her to be your Secretary of State, the first woman to hold that position, and at that time the highest female in your administration. I'm wondering what was behind your choice. I mean, my father hired her many years before that because of her knowledge, her wit, her strategic mind, but also her ability to be very blunt with him. What was in your mind and in your thoughts when you were choosing her for that position?
Well, I will tell you that, first of all, I was impressed that she had worked for your father in the Carter White House and that she had apparently held her own. She was, I thought she had been, I think, twice voted the best professor by the students at Georgetown. I wanted someone who understood the world that we had left and the one we were moving into, and what the real meaning of the end of the Cold War could be. Keep in mind, I had the first opportunity to spend all 4 of my years of my first term and then the second term after the fall of the Berlin Wall and after the, in effect, dissolution of the former Soviet Union. So I wanted someone who understood that and who understood that the problems were not over, that not living in a bipolar world contained great promise, but also the peril that the old divisions of race, ethnicity, and religion could rise up again as instruments of people who didn't believe in democracy and freedom and wanted to reestablish empires. And that was always going to be, for example, a big debate in Russia. How do you define your greatness in the 21st century? Is it a 21st century great country that relies on your incredible information technology capacity, or are you going to ride your oil and gas to try to restore the imperialism of the czars? And I think we all know what decision Russia made. Madeleine, like me, believed we should work for the best and reach out to everybody, but plan for the worst so that we could preserve the gains that had been won in World War II and afterward. And I think she was the perfect person to have that job.
President Clinton, good morning. We appreciate your time today. I know even in your last conversations with Secretary Albright, she was talking about the urgency and the need of the world, of America and NATO to stand up for Ukraine, to stand up against Russia in this moment because of what is at stake, not just for the people of Ukraine, but for freedom and democracy. Can you shed a little more light on those conversations? I imagine your view of the stakes line up with those of Secretary Albright.
Yes, first of all, it came about because I knew she'd been feeling not well, but I didn't know how seriously ill she was because she wouldn't talk to anybody about it. Even we had gone in 2019 to Kosovo to celebrate the 20th anniversary of the Kosovars winning their independence from Serbia and then becoming, a new country. And we had a wonderful trip, and we stayed in touch on a pretty regular basis. And but I called her, and I could tell. She said, "Look, I haven't been well. I think I'm going to get better. I've got a good doctor. I'm doing what I can to do the right thing. Let's not waste any time on my health. The only thing that really matters is what kind of world we're going to leave to our grandchildren." And so she went into a whole riff on Ukraine, and she knew, of course, that I agreed with her. And I said, and we talked about how important it was to keep Europe united and strong in the sanctions, and to keep everybody supplying both the military and the humanitarian needs of Ukraine as much as we could, and that we thought President Biden had done a good job of uniting the United States and our NATO allies and supporting the European Union. But we wanted to be, we both agreed that whatever they decided to do, we would support, because we had to give the Ukrainians a chance to prevail. And she thought they could eventually prevail if we would just stay with them. And I thought it was great. She was always feisty and upbeat about things, but of course, heartsick about what they've been through.
Mr. President, it was so inspiring to see you and President Bush a few weeks ago in Chicago laying the wreath at the Ukrainian church. It's much like the work you did with his father, George H.W. Bush. And that show of bipartisanship, it really electrified a lot of Americans, seeing Republicans and Democrats standing shoulder to shoulder. Can you talk about how important that is right now for this country, and why you decided to do that when you did?
Well, first of all, we had a long-standing agreement that President Bush and I did to go appear in Chicago together at a meeting of Motorola's international leaders. There were, 80 or 100 of them there. And I knew that Illinois and Chicago in particular had a big Ukrainian population. the governor of Illinois is America's only Ukrainian-American governor. His family migrated there in the early 1880s and created the Hyatt Hotel business empire. And then there have been a lot of Ukrainians since. And, so we just decided it would be a good thing to go to the Mother Church there in Chicago, which is in Ukraine Village. And there's an art center there, there's a culture center across the street, and there's this breathtakingly beautiful church. And so we went and laid flowers there just to show our support, not just for the nation, but for the people and what they're going through. And I thought it was important, too, that, that George Bush and I still don't agree on everything, but we're friends. We don't think you have to hate each other to disagree, and we believe that America has a unique responsibility. And I told him, I said, I was so grateful that you supported the expansion of NATO, and then they brought in the Baltic states after I left because they hadn't quite qualified yet. But I take it nobody who's really looked at what happened can believe that we made a mistake. NATO was always a defensive alliance, and we always wanted NATO to be just that, to defend, not to attack. And there was a column by a man named, I think, Tom Rose in the local New York Post the other day, which just simply detailed all the things that Russia had done with NATO when Boris Yeltsin was president and when I was there. And they had a chance, if they had decided to stay a democracy, to become a member of NATO and to join the fight against global terrorism, and they took a pass because Mr. Putin wanted to do just what he's doing. But to pretend that this is some reaction to an aggressive NATO, all those little countries who joined NATO and raised their taxes and built up their military to do it are breathing a sigh of relief that they're in now. And so I believe that the lessons of this are clear. But we need to do this together as a nation. It doesn't need to be a partisan issue. We need to unite and stand up for freedom.
So many important messages in your comments. Former President Bill Clinton, thank you so much for coming on the show to talk about the world today and the incredible legacy of former Secretary of State Madeleine Albright.
Hey, thanks so much for watching our YouTube channel. You can follow up on today's top stories and breaking news, or catch up on your favorite MSNBC shows all in one place. Download the NBC News app today.